This meeting to order. It's the meeting of the Technology Committee on December 9th. And as always, if we would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Whoa. Thank you. Our next order is the approval of the agenda. And when we do that, we need to remove the committee meeting minutes.
I move that we approve the agenda with the removal of items D and E, the committee meeting minutes.
Second the motion.
Okay, discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
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 It's 3-0. Has Mark joined us?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good. Because boy, you got a lot of things on here, Mark. And start off with the update on the technology assessment RFP.
Okay, I'm happy to announce that we do have the technology assessment posted. The RFP is now posted. We did add a little bit of time to the deadline because of the holidays coming up. So the deadline will be end of day, January 12th of 2022.
Seems reasonable. Okay, I don't see any hands, so we can roll right to the next one. I should also start here that I have a hard stop at 3 o'clock. I have a phone call at 3, so if we run over, I'm gonna let Ingrid run the meeting. That's a threat. All right, update on radios.
Okay, update on radios. For the radios, I'm gonna have Wade Britt, who's our radio consultant from Call Me Technologies, and he is going to talk a little bit about the project.
Okay.
Hey, good afternoon. Can you all hear me?
Yes,
Sure
sir.
can.
Okay, great. I've had a little bit of difficulty here with the IT side on my end. We were having an internet outage just as the invite came out. So great. I'm glad to be here with you. Thank you. And just for the record, I am with Mobile Communications America. Our email address is callmc. I work as a manufacturer's representative for Motorola Solutions. So actually your contract is Motorola Solutions. And we are very well underway with the radio project. We started this project originally in 2018. Looked at a number of different aspects to it and ultimately decided that the school district was best served to join forces and collaborate with Beaufort County for the public safety radio system that is in service with the county. It's a wide area radio system that encompasses 5 transmitter sites that are all linked together, allowing radio users to roam from one site to the next. And it also is a component to the PAL 800 radio system, which is a statewide public safety, public service radio system used throughout the state of South Carolina. Beaufort County has 5 sites out of the PAL 800 system. There's a total of 163 transmitter sites located throughout the county, throughout the state. So that means that once Beaufort County School District radios leave the county, they can then roam over to the Beaufort County, the Palmetto 800 system and communicate back and to one another throughout the state of South Carolina. It is the kind of the gold standard for public safety. It is the gold standard for public safety radio systems. It's been in existence for a long time and continues to evolve and improve. And the county is, the school district is well ahead. You guys have already implemented technology that PAL 800 is planning to implement in 2025. That's one of the advantages, I guess, of coming in with a green field like this and starting from scratch. The county, the school district's radio systems consist, let me get the details here, of 700 786 portable radios, 214 mobiles, and 4 base stations. All the mobile radios are distributed throughout the buses, obviously, and then the bus barns have a base station at each one of those. We've got a varying number of handheld radios distributed throughout the district at each of the schools. And we are also in the process now of implementing bidirectional amplifiers to improve coverage within the schools, not just for the school district, but as well as for the county's first responders. It is a very reliable radio system. It is just, like I say, it's a state-of-the-art radio system. There's approximately 60,000 radios on the network, and the school district has potential to talk to those if needed. So in the event of a mass casualty event or mass weather event, all these radios have the ability to coordinate activities among them. So it's a very sophisticated radio system with a lot of capabilities on it. It is interoperable. So you've got wide area coverage, you've got private discrete communications within the school district if you need it, excuse me, wide area communications if you need it, but then private communications within each of the schools and then amongst the school district as a whole. The radios work inside and outside of the facilities. And what we're doing now is putting in the BDAs, the bidirectional amplifiers that will improve coverage within each of the schools. The fixed network is all that equipment is in total. So the school district currently has right at 1,000 radios on the network as a whole.
Okay. All right. That certainly sounds stellar. Richard or Dick, rather, anything?
No, no question.
Okay. Ingrid, anything?
Can I just ask for clarification because I'm following along? So we now with these radios, the advantage of them is that in addition to being able to communicate over the campus of the school, there's a communication piece directly with county emergency services.
Yes, radios are set up to where they operate on, they've got incident management channels that are put in place. They are
Nice.
used in specific instances. One of the things that the sheriff's department wanted to separate his communications from yours, as are the other law enforcement agencies. Now, having said that, the Bluffton Police Department has approached me and asked about coordinating, getting their radios configured, reprogrammed, so they can communicate with your staff folks on their channels.
Does Beaufort County Sheriff have that as well, or just Bluffton of Bluffton Police?
No one has it at this point.
Right, but that's
But it is
inquired about.
available to any of the users on the network that's so choose. Now, that does require a modification to the memorandum of understanding between the school district and Beaufort County.
Okay.
But
Thank
the
you.
radio system is flexible and able to support that to the extent that you want it.
Okay, so there's added functionality that we could be looking at down the road with potentially like Beaufort County Sheriff, or I would imagine also fire, ambulance, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And that's just there's no additional hardware to buy. You just have to reprogram the radios to support that. All the network equipment is in place. All the hardware is in place within the school district at this point.
Great. Thank you.
And now I have a question. The police department or the fire department or whomever have to request that, or do we request that?
Well, it has to be agreed to by both parties.
Okay.
For example, if the police department came up and said, hey, we want to access the Beaufort County School District, I would not do that without written authorization from the school district.
Right, I got it. I must be misunderstanding something here because that seems to not be a good thing. I thought one of the big things was that the police department, fire department, and all those first responders would have pretty much unlimited access to our staff and our staff with them. Am I misunderstanding something?
No, this was a decision that was made at the implementation phase during the initial programming. But it's available to the school district if you all want that. It's just a matter of collaboration. You've got it to a certain degree. Their day-to-day routine channels are not loaded in the county's radios, but we do have incident channels that are set up a zone in the radios, if you will, that you go to that, and that is basically you meet at the same place to coordinate your activities.
All right, so Robert, is there any movement on our part to try to get these links?
If I could clarify, the sheriff pretty much put on there, one of his items for us to be able to get on the network is that we would not be allowed to communicate with them directly. Now, what we have done is put these incident channels, as Wade talked about, so that say a hurricane comes, well, then those could then be used to communicate back and forth. But they did not want to have direct contact. What they do, the SROs in all those schools will have two radios, one for us and one for them. And pretty much our fastest, anybody will tell you the fastest form of communication is through the SRO. So the SRO can hear on our radio and he can go immediately to his and contact the sheriff's department as an officer of the sheriff's department. So that's our that's faster than 911 or anything else.
All right. Ingrid?
So what about the elementary schools with the Guard One security? If
So
they don't
they're
have
gonna have, yeah, they're gonna have our radios. They won't have obviously that direct line to the, they won't individually have a direct line to the sheriff's office. Now, we can set up a line between, say, the SROs and we hadn't thought about this, but the SROs and those security officers where they could contact an SRO at a different school if need be.
Yeah, it just seems like, I mean, obviously, we're all very concerned about, active shooters and threats and whatnot. And even at the elementary school level, making sure that they're not handicapped, right, compared to the middle school and high school in terms of communicating if there's a situation.
Well, they would, yeah, they would dial 911 is what they would do.
So then I guess my follow-up would be is, because you said the fastest way is the one hand radio in this hand, SRO with a different radio. Meanwhile, what you're saying is that the elementary school, they're trying to dial 911. I don't know if they're comparable. I hadn't really thought about it either.
Well, I guess you'd say they aren't in the sense that a sheriff over their network saying sheriff needs support is going to get immediate response.
I think that's something to maybe think about, down the road, making sure that they all have the same access.
There may be a way that we can, and Wade, maybe we can talk about, I mean, either programming in a number or something that we could put on there to get them to their nearest SRO. Something we might want to.
Yeah, we can create, basically, as you know, the radios are very flexible. We can create additional talk groups or channels. So basically, you just got to tell us what you want to call it, and we can put that in the existing radios or the new radios, however you want to split that out. So,
well, and these are going to be new radios coming for these new positions in the elementary schools. So it's something we might talk about adding to just those radios, that connection to an SRO at a nearby school.
well, the issue that Ms. Boatwright has brought up has also been brought up by the Bluffton Police Department. And one of the things they want to do is have direct access so that their police officers can at least coordinate with the SRO on that radio. And if nothing else, maybe even have access to your operational talk groups that you choose to let them have access to. So the equipment is able to do that. It's just a matter of you guys saying, hey, yeah, we'll allow them to come over here. The sheriff has made it very clear he wanted to separate his communications and isolate that, but we can set it up where their radios can come to you.
Ingrid?
Yeah, just as another follow-up too. I think the what, David, is to make sure, to ask the superintendent to make sure that, that we are utilizing the radios to their fullest potential in terms of interaction with county resources.
Yeah, I agree. I think we certainly want to bypass the 911 step, because that's just adding a delay we probably don't need.
And I don't like the discrepancy between, schools with SROs and schools with security officers.
All right, but Robert, if I understand, you are going to look into that.
Yes, and actually, I know Freddie, Wade, and myself, we're all on this call, and we're about to place that order for those radios, and we can talk about you know, which is the nearest SRO and talk and see how we can, yeah, open up that line of communication there.
Dick, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I tell you that no police department or sheriff's department is going to allow civilians, if you will, whether they be contractors or school officials, on their net, period. It's not going to happen. They can't do it. They have to have net discipline for their emergency use, and they can't have untrained and people that are not from their own organization on that net. So we're going to have, it's a good thing that if they can call into our net, that's a good thing, that they could dial in and get right to school officials from their end to us. But it's not ever going to go the other way. It just won't happen. So we have to find another way to have some kind of an emergency protocol for the elementary schools with contract employees as security officers to contact the local police. And that's something that the security firm that we hire should be made to figure out how to do that.
All right. Thank you, Wade. Thank you, Robert. Update on cell phones is next.
And one more thing on that, I did include 2 documents in the board package. One was a basic school diagram for St. Helena Elementary, and it's just to show the base layout for the radio system. And I wanted to say that we do treat all buildings and schools the same. So it's going to be roughly the same throughout every one of our buildings, maybe a few more antennas, depending on the size. Okay, cell phones. Oh, there we go. Sorry.
All right, I'll sign off here then.
Thank you, Mr. Britt.
You betcha.
And there was a heat map also, but that's very similar to the wireless diagrams I showed a few months back, and just showing the signal levels. Okay, I provided a list of all cell phones that the district uses by department. And if y'all have any questions.
No? Ingrid, Dick, no questions? All right, that's a quick closure item.
I don't remember what the issue was, so.
Yeah, I can't either. All right, thanks, Mark, for that one. Okay, update on esports.
Esports. I think the biggest thing we need to look at for esports is we need to determine basically what games we want for competition. The games we decide to use is going to determine the price of the equipment we purchase. If we play games like League of Legends and Rocket League, those don't have the higher hardware specs as games like Overwatch has. And more than likely, most of the gaming clubs would want some type of mixture between the two. So we just need to determine kind of the numbers we're going to have in the clubs and the split differentiation between games. I've made contact with HP, Dell, ByteRite Systems, and they are all getting us quotes for their gaming lineups. So we'll have a good variety to choose from. The hardest thing we're going to fight right now is the shortage of GPUs. Right now, finding graphics cards is very hard because of the chip shortage in China. And as quick as they can get them out, they are already sold. So getting mass numbers is going to be hard on the sidelines, but going through a distributor like HP, Dell, we should be able to get the quantities we need to realize the esports leagues throughout Beaufort County.
Yeah,
Go ahead, sorry.
you mind? Mr.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm thinking we should start at the high school, right? And then work it down probably. Overwatch, I think, because I've done some, a little bit of research on this, is probably an up and coming game that's not widely played at the esports at the high school level. So for me, League of Legends, Rocket, FIFA, Madden. I don't know if people do NBA 2K or not. And then the other one is Smash Kart, right? I don't know if that one requires a higher level.
It does not.
So the question is then, do you get for it's such a rapidly evolving program at the high school level right now. So many high schools are adopting them and they're becoming a bigger and bigger thing. Do you get the equipment looking forward, or do you get the equipment for what you need right now?
At doing some research with the high school league and the middle school esports league, looking on their websites, and with the future anticipation that South Carolina is going to be jumping on board with the South Carolina High School League, recognizing this as—
They are?
Yes, I know they're working on it.
Okay.
But I don't know how quickly it's actually going to come to fruition. Hopefully by next school year. What I would probably recommend is a mix with just a few stations capable of the higher end games, thinking that for the next couple of years, the Rocket League and the lower graphics capability games are going to be more prevalent until it's more widely adopted. But that does give the flexibility of a 5-man team, saying we had 5 of the higher end workstations to still practice and get ready, maybe do some sideline competing, and then be ready to jump full in when it goes fully online with the high school league.
Do you mind if I keep going, Mr. Stribinger?
This is your ball to carry.
Awesome. Okay, so what it sounds like to me is what you're proposing is at each school there would be a small percentage of computers for Overwatch or a higher graphics utilization game, but the majority of computers, as long as they could do what we have currently available. And then as the program grows, we just add more high level graphics computers in. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and the main reason for that is the differentiating factor is that the lower end workstation is going to come in at the $1,400 to $1,700 range, where the high end one is going to be at the $2,200 to $2,500 range.
Yeah, and I think it's good.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think it's good to start small and then grow it. One other question, because one of the things that I think that I would hope that this would ultimately lead to is something like a cyber range program. That's not graphics intense though, right? You can do that.
It is
Sorry.
not. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm very excited. I'm excited that South Carolina is getting on board, and I think that that this could be a great thing for kids.
Nick, any questions? My only question was, where is the demand coming from other than Ingrid?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, are the schools on this? I mean, and you mentioned that the league is looking at it, right? To become a high sport, a recognized sport. But is the demand coming out of our schools? Are principals asking? Are the athletic directors asking? I'm trying to figure out where this, are we anticipating something, or is there already a demand?
There is, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
We currently have 2 programs, one at the middle school level at Bluffton Middle, which is considered a club. And then we have one at May River High School. And both of them were initiated from the schools. wanting to expand those initiatives to their students. We're seeing a growing demand across the state from and across the country as this basically grows into a full-time sport. And it is really taking off.
Yeah, so my take on it was May River has a really good program. They have a fairly high turnout. They do it, I think, 3 days a week, different games on different days. Even during the pandemic, they allowed them to compete from home, but you normally are not. You normally have to compete in the school. And then they actually had kids get scholarships because more and more colleges are offering esports scholarships. And I know I have not talked to all the principals, but I know that the principal at Hilton Head High has been wanting to do it. It's a question of finding coaches, right? And I'm very excited to say that we have a female teacher that stepped up to be a coach of an esports club, because another big thing is trying to get more girls into gaming, because gaming is really a gateway to a lot of the new technology programming and curriculum that's coming out. And so I think that the demand is high among students. I think the demand is low among parents because there's an education piece that needs to go with it. That it's not just sort of after school video game playing, but that it's competitive, it provides scholarships, it teaches skills that are in demand in the job force, it teaches skills that are in demand at the college level. So I think there is an educational component to it. And so, like I said, I think that if we don't do something about it, in 2 years, we'll be playing catch up.
I'm pretty sure you can probably get parents on board when you talk scholarship.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, the thing that got me, because I have an older son who's a gamer, the one that's at Northwestern, and he plays in their esports program up there, and he kept asking me about esports. He's like, you should consider esports. And I was like, no, that's just video game playing. What got my attention is these video game leagues are how people recruit for cybersecurity job training, because the same skill set that allows you, these are not just, first person shooter games or something. There's complex, I've seen the whole thing. It's a very complex thing. And as these kids get proficient, they're actually eligible for scholarships. Military is actually trolling these leagues, looking for people that they will certify and bring into their programs. So to not do it, to me, is overlooking where this country's headed. But as you know, I'm passionate about it, so.
Yeah, I know. I think everybody knows that.
I know, well, everybody in this room.
And I agree with you, and there has to be an educational piece, because there's a lot more to it than I think most people know.
Right.
The average person on the street, which would include me, has no idea that there's all these legitimate pillars underneath of this. So I don't know who does the education. Somebody's
You mean the education or the parental education?
Parental education.
Yeah, I can tell you the other thing is, when I started talking to people in the community, there's a ton of interest in the community, like the Greater Island Council Technology Committee, et cetera. So I think it's gonna be word of mouth. It's gonna be sending stuff home, peach jar flyers, that kind of thing. But really, and then looking at May River's got a successful program. So it's just going to have to convince parents that we're not setting their kids in front of a screen to play video games.
Okay.
So that sounds, so Mark, getting back to the equipment, what's the timeline on, do you think that, like, I know graphic cards are hard to get.
I should have some quotes to give back to you at the next meeting. It's been a little slow getting quotes back from manufacturers, but I do believe that they would be able to deliver. It's going to be pretty much like most of our computer components. We're looking at a 4 to probably 5 month window for receipt of that equipment.
Okay.
So we would be looking at least next school year.
Okay. Yeah, 4 months. They do actually have, and I don't know if this would tie into their stuff, they have some summer programs that they do, that these different leagues do. Anyway. Okay, well then I'll just wait and see what what you say at the next technology committee meeting.
And the May River Club, I think, has 30-something participants, and they've gotten one scholarship a year for the last 2 years out of their club. So I think that's a pretty good track record.
Yeah,
Yeah, oh, that'll go on the publicity folder. All right, yeah, I probably have more questions about that, but I'll hold them till the next meeting. If I'm still on this committee, the next meeting. Parental use of, oh, no, I'm sorry, internet access for students at home, which, you know, we've kind of banged around before. You know, knowing where the holes are. So I don't know, again, this is yours, Ingrid.
cool. Yeah, my question was in trying to look at the scope of the problem, and I know Beaufort County is doing its own program with this, but I was just kind of curious, do we have, because I did hear that the gentleman at the broadband office said if needed, he could get, and he wasn't suggesting this, he was just talking actually to a group at this point, but he's like, the Office of Broadband has all the information about students who lack internet access at home, because this is such a political impetus. So do we have that information handy, or is that something we track?
We do put a piece in our online student registration where we ask the parents as they're filling it out, do they have broadband at home? And that is tracked through data services. The only problem we've found in the past is a lot of times parents will say that they have it when they have it on a cell phone that really won't support online learning with Zoom and stuff like that. So not all the answers we get are 100% that we can go by.
And then I guess my thought too was, if our overarching thing is to expand broadband internet, like how do we get started? So that's why I'm saying, like, how do we define like what percentage of students don't have internet access by school, by cluster, or district wide? Is that something that we can start thinking about and wrapping our heads around what this mountain looks like?
Well, I would suggest the first thing we do is change the question.
So what?
Change the question.
Right.
Not have that, as you say, Mark, they might answer, yeah, but they only have cell phone. So we need to change that question so that we get the answer to what we really need to know, so that we can size this up, because there's the dead zones technically, and then there's dead zones financially. So I think our information is the most accurate because we're actually asking the parent, do you have it? Not whether it's available, but, you know, are you paying for it? You know, so I think we're probably the best source of that information if we ask the right question.
The best part about that is now is the time when we're gathering the data we put into our onboarding system. So we usually try to have that to data services by end of February. And they usually launch the online registration in March. So we should be able to get that information over.
And that's the registration paperwork that everyone fills out, not just new people, every year, right?
Every year, every parent fills it out, yes.
Would it be reasonable to include a question about, you know, do you have trouble paying for broadband access versus whether or not it's actually you have the, you know, the wire to your house?
Yeah, I think you're going to have to be a little more delicate with that question.
You know, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Somehow
like,
you have
yeah. To your point, David, there's, you know, 4 obstacles to broadband, right? There's the actual wire to the house. Then there's the end user. You know, what are they running this broadband? You can have all the broadband in the world, but if you've got, you know, an old computer that doesn't, so then what are the end user? Affordability, and then digital literacy. Because I do wonder too, if that's not a problem, especially with some of our more recent arrivals to Beaufort County that have maybe language gaps. they might have broadband, they might be paying for broadband, but they don't know exactly, they don't have the digital literacy to go on and use it the way we would like them to use it for students, which is kind of what that parent connections thing is working on. Which segues into my next question, because this is what I was thinking about, so Power School, do we track how many parents actually sign up for Power School? Is that something that we have the capability of finding out?
I would need to check with Daniel Fallon and Data Services. That would be in his wheelhouse. They are our Power School gurus.
Yeah, because my question is twofold. One, that date, and I was talking to David about this, and I don't want to get into the weeds, and I don't want to blindside anybody with a weird question, but I was just thinking about, trying to get broadband to kids, because I think that's going to be really essential. And we've got so much money invested. So, we're doing this Saturday program at Boys and Girls Club, and part of it is helping these kids use this technology outside the classroom that they have that's available to them to help with the learning gap. So when I was thinking about it, I was like, with the Power School, it'd be interesting to find out, are parents signing up for it? Because that might help us understand what their technology limitations are. Because it's, you have to download an app onto something. I don't know. I don't think it's very memory intensive or anything, but it takes a fair amount. You have to have some sort of a connection. You have to be paying for some sort of connection to use it regularly. But and then you also have to have some level of digital literacy, because you've got to go in and get it all signed up. And I don't know if there's a language barrier to some of this as well. So that was one thing I thought, well, if we knew how many parents actually signed up for Power School. And then the other question it would kind of answer is, we have this technology and we think we're engaging with parents, but if only 40% of parents, I have no idea, I'm just making that number up, are actually signing up for Power School, that kind of goes back to this question of, are we looking to see if the goals of the technology are being met in the implementation? Or if we need to do some more outreach or offer some classes or have, students educating their parents on how to sign up for Power School. So that's why, if that's too weedy or too kind of off topic.
I would modify the question, because signing up for it is one thing and using it is a different thing. So the signups is good, but we'd also like to know probably, or whoever is spearheading this would like to know the frequency of access, because you can sign up and use it once and then never use it again, and we'll get a false picture of how effectively.
Well, except if you sign up for it, by nature, you will get nonstop notifications. Every time a child misses a class, every time a grade is posted, whether you don't have to log back in. You don't have to, I don't do anything on Power School, but several times a day I get a notification, Henry's grade is now blah, blah, blah. And if it's concerning, and there was a mistake made on one of his grades, it popped up and his grade had dropped. And I looked, I'm like, what happened on this assignment? Why'd you get that grade? He said, I have no idea. So he went to the teacher and the teacher's like, oh, that was a mistake, and fixed it. But that kind of like parenting, that's sort of our way of communicating with the parent, that your child was absent, your child's grades are having these issues. So I don't know. It just seemed like it would be good data to have, and it might help us define some of these things we're looking at trying to tackle at a policy level.
So it's mostly a one-way. It's not a duplex thing. It's
you can do things like pay bills and email teachers through it. But to me, the biggest thing is, if you're signed up for it, you should be getting pop-ups all the time telling you there's any kind of problem going on.
Right.
An absence, a grade change, etc. So one of the things that was mentioned was some of the parents, they don't know what their kids are doing as far as technology goes. So making sure that the parents understand what's happening and that they have access to broadband, I think is going to be really critical. And I think it goes to our ultimate result, David, of fiscal responsibility and student achievement. So.
Yeah, okay. I think the fiscal responsibility might be a little bit of a stretch, but student achievement, I can buy that one. Everything we do has fiscal responsibility impact, just about, other than robocalls. All right, so that's the next thing, is to try to see if we collect those stats and if people.
Well, and again, if it's out of line for this committee, I don't, that's fine. That's reasonable feedback for me. right? Like if you'd rather not go down this trail, I'm fine with that too. I was just kind of thinking about it.
Well, parental engagement is one of our targets, so it certainly plays to that. And I'm not sure how all that folds in, or if this is the right place to be doing that. Because I'm not sure who has that OE.
The parental engagement.
Yeah.
Well, but the
I
other
think,
thing
I
is,
think we just went over that. I'm not sure whether that was operations or not, but I'm just a stickler on the OE generating the actions. All right,
William's
Will.
hands up.
Yeah, William.
The answers so we could, and that will definitely help.
William, we can't understand a word you're saying.
breaking up.
How about now?
No,
Can you hear me now?
it's a bad connection.
I have all my bars. You guys there?
You're still breaking up, Will.
So is he going to log back in? Did he get off? Well, we're waiting for him to come back. To your point about the OE, so what we talked about yesterday, OE 17, not the OE 17.1, 0.2, 0.3, but the OE 17, the superintendent shall partner with faculty, students, and staff, both within as well as outside the district, to make technology integrate seamlessly with the teaching, research, and support operations of the district. So that's kind of a little bit what I'm getting at is I think looking beyond how our students use the technology and trying to make sure that they can use it at home and that the parents understand what the technology is for and engagement. What I think is important for technology to do, for our technology committee to do, is look at what are the goals. Now, Power School is it an LMS or an SIS? I don't even know. I think it's like a learning management system.
It's a SIS.
Okay, so it's got other components, right? But when you spend a bunch of money on technology, you have certain goals. So if one of the goals is this is a way to communicate grades and attendance to parents and engage parents in their kids' school, what are we doing to make sure that's actually occurring, right? That goal that we set when we purchase this equipment or purchase this software, that's the piece that I'm looking for. And because anecdotally, as a parent in the school, there's several times where, and not recently, this was years ago, so I'm not calling anything particular recently, but like Naviance, we only use 10% of Naviance. And I was out at a college thing and these other parents were talking about, they did this on Naviance and that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And so I asked our counsel, I'm like, why can't we get this functionality? And she goes, well, they just never trained us on it. So that's the kind of feedback that needs to get back up the food chain. So for me, this is Power School, if we get the data on that, that helps with that. And I think that ties into our OE.
I'm not sure I agree on that one. Because we support a demand. Technology supports the demand that comes from somewhere else. So it's a fine line, but I'm sure we'll continue to talk about it. Like parental engagement belongs to someone, some committee that belongs to them, some OE belongs to somebody about parental engagement or student achievement. So that's, to me, where the demand gets generated, and technology says, we got it. We support what you want. You have the goal, we support it.
Yes, and I think that does represent, and you and I will have this ongoing debate, and I completely respect your opinion. My thought on it, though, is that if we're purchasing technology in order to increase parental engagement, that falls in technology. And I was just watching a CNBC this morning, and the new head of the NYSE, she said every company is a technology company. whether they know it or not now, because it's all about data and algorithms and feeding. And so to me, it's not like parental engagement exists separately from technology. We look at how do we engage parents, and we look at what technology is available, and we purchase the technology, and then we look and see if it's working.
As I've said before, this is an age-old debate, whether
Not that old.
technology is the enabler, or whether technology supports demand. And there's no right answer to that. So, all right. Future topics. Thank you, Mark, by the way. Now, future topics, I think that, that the committee might get reset in January. So we want to be fairly specific if we have future topics, so that the next committee could pick it up.
Well, for me, we, following up on what we've already got out there,
Right.
like the
Yeah.
esports.
Right, that's a given.
And I think the computer lab too, we were going to talk about that as a follow-up, weren't we, at some point?
Yeah, the media center rework, but that involves
Operations.
Yeah, also. Dick, you had your hand up?
I did, thank you, David. I believe that I've got something going on here. I believe that what happened yesterday, we got to take a crack at distilling the OEs for technology.
Agree. That probably should be the first thing we do next time.
Yeah, what I'm going to suggest that the finance committee is that the people on the existing finance committee take a crack at it to have ready for whatever committee, whoever's on the committee as they meet in January.
Right.
It's just simply taking what's in the OEs and looking to put it into a paragraph, put it into a paragraph with bullets or some format that will make it less onerous to read and easier to understand and more general to allow the staff to fill in the blanks on when they come back with their how they're going to accomplish the operational expert.
Very good point. Very, very good point. Tanya?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Mark and I had talked about bringing forward 17.7 and 17.8 for our next meeting. And his staff are already gathering the data. Those are regarding authorized and unauthorized access over the district's computer network, and dissemination of personal information with regard to the FERPA Act. So if I was going to recommend that we bring those two OEs combined in one report. And then also, Mark and I have spoken this morning. I did watch a bit of the meeting yesterday of the work session, and we were planning on meeting to combine some of the OEs in the technology OE and come forward with recommendation to bring groups of OEs back together instead of bringing one every single month in the future, and to combine them, as Mr. Geyer just mentioned as well, for finance, that we would do something similar and come back with a recommendation on that for technology.
I think that's in line with what we discussed yesterday. But one thing we didn't discuss is that now we do report on like point this and point that separately, and now they're going to all have to be reported on together. So there has to be a rethink on the scheduling and how long it's going to take. But yeah, that's follow-up kind of conversation.
Right. If we do them all together, we'll just need to extend the time a little bit to allow us to gather all of that information. But if you'd like to bring two of the subsections, or wait, either one is the board's preference, or the committee's preference.
We'll put that on the agenda, and then, we'll also discuss, as Dick pointed out, we really do need to discuss how we consolidate.
I definitely agree with that.
I'm not sure I understood, Will.
No, I just said that I agree with what you just said.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. Well, I certainly appreciate the fact that we finished on time.
Does that mean the threat worked? Is that what we're saying?
Well, it could be coincidence. It could be spurious correlation, but hey, facts
Correlation,
are
not causation?
yeah,
right.
facts are
All right,
facts.
maybe you guys should bring me out of the back room more often.
Well, I'll use that again to try to get a second data point. And if
Sounds
it
good.
works, then we've got 2 data points, we might have something. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.